Welcome to Life in Greece live stream. This is the second one I've only done. It is a very strange format, speaking into the screen and hoping people can chat and get some interaction going. But I really enjoyed the last one. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I had people watching, and I had a person watching and participating from Hawaii, from Australia, from New Zealand. It was great. So here we are. And this week I'm going to be talking about the experience of living on a Greek island for 20 years. But before I get to that, I want to make some announcements. So the poll that I held last week in the community tab on the YouTube channel, Life in Greece, showed definitively what I already knew, which is that none of you guys are really interested in acorns, which is really unfortunate because there are a whole bunch of people out there that are interested in acorns and they're not finding the channel because the algorithms can't handle multi-interests on a channel. I'm really hoping in the future that YouTube will be able to do that. We'll be able to have somebody like myself on a channel who has multiple interests, multiple playlists, that one has nothing to do with the other, and they can handle it all and send the right people to you. At the moment, they can't. So all the Acorn videos are going to move over to their own channel, which is going to be called Acorn World, and that's going to happen sometime in October. The second announcement is that I'm going to have a new website soon. I'm very excited about that. That happened in a very special way. My dear friend kept bothering me about how bad my website is and how bad my whole internet presence is and how I don't have anything synced up, and I'm just not, with it as much as I could be. And he has volunteered to create a website for me and get that all together under one umbrella. So I'm really excited about that. I haven't seen anything, but he says it's looking good. So that should be launched probably, well, it'll definitely be launched this year, but there's no rush. The next announcement is that on the new website, there's going to be a much better streamlined eShop. I have an eShop now at oakmeal.com, but this is going to be different. It's going to be the products I make, but it's also going to be merch. And so my daughter and her friends and myself and others have been brainstorming some pretty funny, funky, offbeat ideas for merch. So look forward to that. And as far as the house renovation videos are concerned, unfortunately, we couldn't really work during August. It is the tour every August. Okay, and I have to be here, work full time, so there's no way I could work on the house. I talked to Marcos today, and it looks like we're going to be back to work on the house, not this week coming up these days, but the week after that. So the house videos will continue. It just might take a couple weeks before the next one gets out there. Having said that, I have got something ready for you next week. What else is there to tell you? The next thing we're going to do at the house, I'm pretty sure, 99% sure, is going to be installing the skylight in the little bathroom. Something I've never done and Marcos has never done. So that should be really interesting. But I'm feeling pretty positive about it because the directions are without language, without words. They're only pictures. So I figure we can get it. We can do it. And okay, I'm going to get on to the island talk. I want to tell you at the end of this thing, toward the end, I'm going to tell you something that you probably don't know about me, which is kind of an aha moment for a lot of people when they learn it about me. It puts something in place, but that's not now. That's later. That's at the end. So now let's talk about the island. The island I live on is very sparsely populated. It's the 6th largest island in the Cycladic chain. It's 19 kilometers long and 9 kilometers wide. So it's about 86 kilometers of circumference. Anyway, all of that's boring. But the point is, one of the larger islands in Greece, but with one of the smallest populations. The people that live here have been living here for generations on the same land. And I looked up the word today, clan, because I don't want to treat anybody with disrespect. I have nothing but respect for Cairns and for the local people here. But it is a very clannish society. And I wanted to make sure that I could use that word without meaning any offense. And yes, indeed, clan by definition is a group of people that are united by kinship or descent. And that's what we have here. We have about 25 extended families on the island. And they've been here for many, many generations. So somebody like me that just shows up is quite exotic. There are 2,000 residents, as I said, about little over half of those, or sorry, a little less than half of those are miners. It's a farming island, which is unusual for Greece now. You don't have that many islands that are predominantly agricultural. But the people that are living on this island, that have been living here for all these generations, are descended from hill people on the mainland. Hill people that had experience with livestock and with cheese making and with all the things that do on here on Kea, but with not much experience or interaction with the sea. For instance, here, not many people swim. Not many of the local people swim. They might go down to the beach as a big family gathering for 3 days during one of the bigger festivals in August, but just swimming regularly isn't a thing. And the funny thing is, neither do a lot of us here that have moved to the island. And one of the main reasons a lot of us moved to the island was the swimming and the sea. And yet you find the longer you live on an island, the less often you go swimming. And it happens to everybody who comes to live here. I'm not just talking about local people. I'm mostly talking about people like myself. You say it's not going to happen to you. You say, how can you possibly be surrounded by such gorgeous beaches and sea and not go swimming all the time? And yet, life happens, and it's just not something you can do that often. So that's one big surprise about living on an island, is how little you actually do end up on a beach or in the sea. This island as well, strangely, doesn't have fishermen because they were livestock people. Who's here? Sorry, I have to take a break and just say hello with Dicky Doo. You want to go out? Let's go out for just a second. Let me let her out or she'll drive me crazy. So yeah, because these are agriculturalists and they're not seafaring people, they're real survivalists. To this day, most of the people on the island, in the farms, of course, are making all their own cheese, all their own vegetables, all their own livestock. I mean, they really don't have to go to the grocery store. So it's knowledge about how to live in this particular terrain, which is drought-ridden, and it's terraces and it's rocky. There's, for instance, one of my farmer friend community members was telling me how during the economic crisis, when none of us had any money or there was really a fear of shortages of food and things like that, he took one handful of lentils and basically just broadcast them, as they call it, into the dirt, watered it a bit, and then left it. And the next spring, he harvested, without doing anything, he harvested 1 bushel of lentils. So that's a really good example of what people do here and how people live. They have an incredible knowledge of local conditions and surviving in these difficult times. I have a few things that are very difficult living on a Greek island. The prices of food is about 30% higher than it is in Athens. And it's already pretty high in Athens. The price of food is exorbitantly high. There used to be only one family that controlled all the food on the island. Now it's 3-4 different companies. The pharmaceuticals, extremely expensive, maybe 40% higher than the mainland. And that is because one family actually has a monopoly on the pharmaceutical business here on Kea. Deliveries, if you need anything shipped, it's really, really expensive. It costs now about euros for me to ship a small box with 2 or 3 packages of cookies to the States, and about 15 euros to Europe. It's prohibitively expensive. Gasoline is really expensive here. One of the other negative things about living on the island is the water. The quality of the water that comes out of the taps. It was kind of a mucky, gunky, slimy, yellow-brown for most of the month of August. I don't know exactly what that is, if it's old pipes or if it's pipes that have holes in them and things are getting into them. It's not like that most of the year. You could never drink the water out of the taps here. That's a thing. And, I've been doing it for so long that I'm used to it, but it's such a luxury when I go somewhere and I can just turn the tap on, put a glass under it, and drink it and enjoy it. That doesn't exist here. You have to either bring bottled water in, or you bring water that has gone through a filter system that the municipality applies in each little village. But it's a pain in the neck, and it's kind of gross when you think about showering or bathing in the water in those really nasty months, July and August. I guess the water actually comes from the water table of the Cyclades, and it's become so low, this water table, because of overcrowding and overuse and swimming pools and the whole thing. So that's why it gets so gross in the busy months, the busiest months. Another really difficult thing that I've noticed about living on this island, and I think a lot of islands, a lot of couples break up. I've seen it over and over and over, including my own marriage, which started and ended here. But I saw so many couples in which the wife just couldn't handle it at some point and left. And I get it, because there's really very little social life here. The reason I brought up the whole concept of clan is because the people here, the local people, are very self-contained. They're in their clans. They really have no interest or use of anybody. Their extended families are large, 70, 80 people when they have a party or a family gathering or something like that. We're talking about those numbers. So it's hard for people if they don't have their own occupation here and their own reason for being here. It's really tough. And even if they do, so many of the couples that I met when I was first here in the 90s and the aughts, the husband ended up staying and working and continuing his life here, and the wife went back to Athens. I talked about that before, and it's a big part of living on a Greek island is the isolation. It's just, there's no getting around it. And part of what I've enjoyed about this whole YouTube community is that it breaks up the isolation, and it's been fun interacting with people from all over the world. But it is a big part of it, and you have to be the kind of person who really enjoys a lot of alone time, which I am. So it's not a problem. And now with the house across the way, it's really not a problem, because whenever I start feeling really, really isolated, I just pop over there. So what else about living on a Greek island? The food. The food is pretty amazing. Well, the food can vary from super amazing to not so great at all. But if you source local stuff and you get local cooks, it's amazing. This morning, somebody gave me these 10 minutes after she'd picked them off the tree. And man, if you haven't had a fresh fig in Greece, you've never had a fig. I didn't think I liked figs, because the only figs I ever had as a kid were fig Newtons. You know what fig Newtons are? I don't even know if they still have fig Newtons. But yeah, that's a fig. They're just amazing. They are just amazing. So yeah, the food, the vegetables are pretty cool. Cool, that's a stupid word. Anyway, they're pretty good. Greece didn't get too much into industrial farming and industrial produce before we understood that organic is so much better for our health. So it's pretty easy to eat healthily here, to eat organic food. The other thing I was thinking about when I was thinking about living on the island is that sense of sort of here, the local people refer to everybody who isn't them as Xeni. Xeni literally means foreigner, not us, other, that's what it means. So everybody's Xeni. Even Athenians from 16 miles across the water are considered Xeni, which is very funny, because whenever I hear them talking about something Xeni, I kind of pop in and say, well, πιο Xeni από μένα δεν γίνεται, meaning you can't get more other than I am. I find that understandable the way they are. I find it in some ways admirable, but it's also some ways very difficult and increases the sense of isolation. But that's the way it is. It's us and them. And that's one of the reasons that this particular island has not had a lot of tourism, and most of the roads are not paved. And generally, it's sort of maybe 25, 30 years behind a lot of islands in many ways. Now, behind is kind of a strange way to put it. I wouldn't actually call it behind. And I'm very vocal about not paving the roads. Our island has become known as rugged and adventurous, and people know if they want to explore here, they need to either rent or bring a 4x4. And that's just kind of part of what we are. It makes up our identity. I saw on Mykonos, I was there in the 80s, and it was the same thing. There were dirt roads everywhere, and everywhere was just absolutely gorgeous and pristine and beautiful. And as soon as they started paving roads, it was all over. It just, the roads were lined left and right with houses, and people were going too fast, and all the beaches got destroyed, and it's just really a shame. So my attitude is that we should keep the roads we have in absolutely pristine condition and not pave the roads that are dirt. That's a very controversial opinion amongst some people there, and I'm not completely rigid on it. There are a couple of roads I can see that there are enough houses there, and it's inconvenient enough for enough people that paving is probably the thing to do. But it's part of here. You get dusty. Part of life here is, as I said, hauling water, getting dusty, just being very physical, and that's something that I really enjoy. There's no necessity for a gym when you have this kind of lifestyle. I see older women here on the island in their 70s, 80s, 90s, which is a very good exercise for aging mind, because you're using both sides of your brain equally. Anyway, yeah, it's a very, very different lifestyle than your modern European or American lifestyle. What else can I tell you about this? When you're talking to people here, when you talk to somebody on the island, you need to keep in mind that, or almost visualize the 20 or 30 people standing behind the person that you're talking to that will hear every single word of your conversation by lunchtime. And that's actually a thing. So it took me a while to figure that out and anybody, but I just had no idea how much and how verbatim my words were being repeated. So that's something that can also be very, very useful. I think they used to call that the grapevine. If you need to get some information spread around, you identify the 2 or 3 people that you know are going to get that information spread around for you. So that's been very different than anywhere else I've ever lived. As I said before, I have 100% respect for the people here. I find the way that they've managed with so little to be so inspiring. And I think that, as I don't want to use the word primitive because it's not exactly that, but as simple as the lifestyle is here on the island, I think it gives them a real step ahead of the rest of the world going forward with some of the problems that we're going to be dealing with. So I've been very interested in watching and observing and seeing how things are done here. They make their own pasta here. They make their own everything. It's really extraordinary. The producers group that I am part of, and we exhibited last night. We were up there at the square in the town exhibiting until midnight. And that's a really good place to see a lot of the stuff that is made on the island. What else can I tell you about living on this island? And of course, I would love it if you guys would give me some questions so that I can see what you guys are actually interested in. I see Carol Turner tried to put a question in, but it was retracted. Anyway, so the other thing that's been happening this week is I got a GoPro. And I got a GoPro without knowing what a GoPro actually is, which was not a very smart thing for me to do. But it was on sale, and GoPro is the word for action cameras. It's the go-to. So I figured I couldn't go wrong. So I basically got it and then looked up on YouTube what is GoPro, because I didn't even know actually what it does and what it doesn't do. And what it doesn't do, I'm really surprised by. It's very specific. but it's going to be great. And I'm going to really enjoy using it for these YouTubes. So I did my first test, and that was the what they call the night rise mode. And it was the blue full moon of August a few days ago. And I went to an incredible spot on the southeast side of the island where the moon rises out of the sea. And I tested out that that part of that accessory on the GoPro. It was pretty interesting. So that'll be part of my next video. But yeah, that's one thing I've been kind of keeping myself busy with. I've been baking a lot these last couple of weeks, and that's why there hasn't been a house video, because it's just all about baking and selling. What else have I planned to tell you? I think one of the things that, yeah, I think the thing that I wanted to save to tell you towards the end, it's probably a good time to tell you now, and that is that one of the reasons I came to live on the island, and one of the reasons I continue living on the island, and I enjoy it, and I absolutely love my life here, is because I have something called prosopagnosia. And prosopagnosia means that I don't see faces. And that sounds really strange to people, but it's like I see just kind of a blur where the face is. And so in order to recognize people, I learn other things about them, their accessories, eyeglasses, their way of dressing, shoes, especially voices, haircuts. Of course, that means I can be thrown really easily as well. Somebody changes that all up. But having prosopagnosia, it was becoming a real issue in the city. It just causes a certain level of confusion in your life. Whereas here, with only 2,000 residents, it's a lot more manageable because I pretty much know who I'm talking to most of the time. And it sounds very strange, but it's a thing. There's somebody named Mike. Oh, Mike Roros. Yeah, you got Mickey. Sorry. Is it Mickey? I think it's Mickey. Hi, Marcie. A question about typical holding costs for a home on the island versus the holding cost on the mainland. By holding cost, I think, are you asking about like selling price? This island is very expensive. This island is one of the more expensive places in Greece. And so for an acre of land, which you need to build, minimum, and a modest 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, you'd probably pay 350,000 euros at least for the house and the land. And that's not being too close to the sea. Utilities, as you're asking about, are extremely expensive here. We have some of the most expensive electricity in Europe. It's gotten a little bit, teeny bit better the last couple of months, and we had a bit of subsidy help from the government, but it's very, very expensive. Utility, but I don't think, somebody might correct me if they know the answer to that, but I don't think utilities are more expensive on the island as opposed to the mainland. I think it's the same. It's the same providers. And basically, we get our electricity from a huge electric cord that goes underwater. That's a real thing. We don't produce our own electricity. We produce electricity on the island from a few solar parks and windmills, but that electricity is pumped back into the grid underwater, and the electricity that we receive and use is also put in. It's absurd. And it's a big reason why most people are against solar parks and especially windmills on the island, because they're not using the electricity topically. Having said that, there have been some projects on Serios and Sifnos, I believe, that produce and provide energy topically. And of course, that's the future. But that's not what's happening here, because we are very close to the mainland. We're getting our electricity from the mainland, which means when everybody's got their air conditions cranked up on a summer day, we can have blackouts here because of that. That hasn't happened. I don't think that happened this year. And I think it's getting better, but it is a thing. So yeah, I was talking about prosopagnosia because that's something I had never heard of before I was diagnosed with it. And then when I found out that I had it, it was just like, wow, of course, that's what it is. I didn't realize that other people were seeing other things. It was my daughter, 8 years old, who kind of alerted me to the fact that she was able to recognize people and see them so much better than I was. So that's one of my biggest reasons. I wouldn't say biggest, but it's one of the motivating factors for being in a tiny community. And it's also, as obviously non-Greek person in Greece, I feel so comfortable here because everybody knows me. Everybody knows a little bit of my backstory. They know my family, my kid, everything. I just love that. When I go to the city, I'm sort of treated like a tourist because of the way I look, which is, it's a little bit annoying. It's understandable, but it's a little bit annoying. So I don't see a lot of, there's a few people here. There are quite a few people here. I'm hoping that I can hear from some of you guys because it's really weird just sitting here and talking to the screen. So Carolyn, it's just me or does the signal keep going? Oh, I hope that's not true. We have really crappy internet here and I hope it can handle this. I looked at the live chat, the live stream, that I did last month. And it also seems like it kind of was a little bit blurry at some points. And I think that's just our really lousy internet. So I'm going to do the next one of these in a month or so. Maybe I'll do it from across, from the other side, where the internet is a lot stronger. So Fish and Sugar, that's a great name. Prosopagnosia can be beneficial. You're not judging a book by its cover. That's true. Oh yeah, I mean, this thing has been incredible. It's created a whole different species of human. If you want to know the truth, it just makes you really listen and be present. And as you said, not judge a book by its cover because the cover isn't really there. And you just a lot more introspective, I think, when you can't see faces. At least that's been my experience. Ever since I was a kid, I was very strange and spent a lot of time alone and didn't really connect with people that well. It wasn't autism, so couldn't figure out what it was. But when I understood that it was that there was prosopagnosia, it started to make sense. High signal is going for me. Okay, cool. Okay, it looks like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in the playback if this thing actually gets recorded properly. This will be on the channel, just like the first one was. And I'm hoping to get organized with the GoPro and be able to do a live stream from outside in the near future. But that's beyond my technical capabilities at this point. So I don't know if there's anything else any of you want to know about living on an island. It's a very strange experience. It's been 20 years. It's hard to believe. This will be my 20th winter. During the holidays, mostly everybody, the locals, from the residents, go to Athens to visit family and to hang out and go out and do stuff. So during the holidays, that 2,000 population dips to probably about 400 at the most. I'd even say less, but I'll play on the safe side. That's pretty incredible when you're on an island in bad weather, knowing there are only another couple hundred souls with you. It's a very, very strange feeling. But I love it. And I love the Greek islands in the winter because they're very, very green and almost lush, just not what you're used to thinking of when you think of the islands. Just like California, everything completely switches out in the winter and summer. I prefer winter to summer. I'm really excited about this season coming up because it is when we collect the acorns. And I alluded to at the beginning of this, I know that a lot of you don't seem to be that interested in acorns, according to my poll, but there are a lot of people that are, because it's a very niche field that I am a pioneer in, and I need to definitely get that stuff over on another website so that they can find it and it doesn't get in your way. And for those of you that are interested, I definitely encourage you to find that website. I'll put an announcement about it when it's up. but it will be called Acorn World. I've already got the tag at Acorn World. So you guys are pretty quiet. Simon says, I love acorns. My first website was called I Love Acorns, and that kicked off the whole thing of me actually becoming the world's expert on eating acorns, which is a very funny thing for me to say even now, because it wasn't what I was thinking I was going to be doing with my professional life. But it turned out that I had some information that they didn't have here on the island, and we just combined the two. They had a lot of information about the acorn caps that we do in exportation, and yeah, it turned out to be a very symbiotic relationship, me and this island and these acorns. All right, well, we've gone to 31 minutes, which is a long time. So I'm going to slow this down now, and I will have a video out next week. I'm not sure what, because it can't be house, unfortunately, because we're not there yet. But the week after, it will definitely be house. I just talked to Marco, and we just talked about getting back to work. I think things are going to move pretty fast when we get back there. So stay tuned. And thank you for sticking with me. This is wonderful having all of you here. And it's really wonderful just having you all generally here and following along on the different things that I'm doing. It's good company. It really is. I love your comments. While I'm waiting for this to start, I made my silly little sign. So spread those likes all over everything, all over my stuff, put likes everywhere. Whenever you see my stuff, put a like on it. Thank you. And I'll see you soon. So take care.